Hello everybody, VG time here. So I went to my local Target the other day and I happened to notice that there was a lot of the Ultimate deck on the table. If you don't know what it looks like, I have a picture for it right about here. So the Ultimate deck was touted as being a tournament viable deck straight out the box. You get two copies of it, smash them together. You could go to your next event and be able to play and be competitive. Didn't quite live up to that hype per se, but it was a really cool deck. Had a lot of great reprints in it. Every card in it was foil. And with the new Ultimate deck on the horizon, I just thought I'd take a crack back at the original one. I do keep this deck updated from time to time whenever new cards come out or new technology. And I just wanted to show you my current build of the deck. So this is 9 months later, and this is the TOA Ultimate deck. So here we are with the TOA leader. I am aware that there's a version of the deck running around that uses the SS4 Bardock cards. That's a really cool deck. But this deck right here is going to be more so emphasizing the original cards in the deck with some twists and some spice that came along the way. So just to recap, she has a permanent that reduces the cost of all Dark Broly's and non-black Xeno battle cards by 1 with a cost of 9 or less. She also removes their specified costs, so it makes it so that it's very easy to play any of these cards. She has an auto on swing that allows you to choose up to 1 of your life added to your hand and draw a card, which means you get a good ability to control your self-awakening. And then on awakening, you get to untap 1, draw 1, and flip her over. On the back side, she has the same permanent as the front side with an auto that on swing she gets to draw a card and she becomes 20,000. And she also has another auto that says that if your opponent removes one of your Dark Broly's or non-black Xeno battle cards by means of a skill, you get to draw a card. And that happens once per turn. So now we got that out of the way. This build is solely focused around protecting this guy right here. This is the Dark Shenron Unison. So, reason why this guy is really cool is that on turn 4, you get one of the most explosive turns in the game because he allows you to play a whole bunch of battle cards without playing any energy whatsoever. So the permanents that he can't attack, that's fine. He's 16k, so he's a little bit harder to attack into. And he has a +1 activate main where you could choose 1 Dark Broly or non-black Xeno battle card in your hand or in the drop area and put it at the bottom of your deck. If you did it from the hand, you get to draw a card. So that helps to make sure cards are where they're supposed to be, which are in your deck, so that you can either search them or have them come off for other effects. The -3 is where it gets special. If you have 4 or more energy at the beginning of your main phase, you can -3 this guy to put into play up to 3 total of Dark Broly's or non-black Xeno battle cards with different name. So again, very explosive. Depending on how you build the deck, you could get up to like 25 energy worth of guys just off of that. And I actually misspoke. The non-black Xeno battle cards have to have a cost of 3 or less. So it comes from your hand or it comes from the deck itself into play. To help to make sure we get on turn 1, we do play 2 copies of Dark Dragon Balls. It looks at the top 7 cards of your deck for either this guy right here or any of the guys that the deck is based around, which are Dark Broly's and non-black Xeno battle cards. All right, so like I said, we're into the protection game. So we played 3 copies of each of these Lord Slugs. Now, one of the issues that kind of came up with the Ultimate deck is that everything in the deck that was part of the deck theme was unique. But that had to be the case because there would be some pretty busted interactions if there weren't. So we have Lord Slug here that is a blocker with an auto where you can pay 1 when it is either KO'd or removed by an opponent's skill to put into play this big beefy boy right here, which is Lord Slug Unbridled Might. He's a 25k blocker that has EX Evolve for 2 on top of this guy. So even if you draw all these and you didn't have the ability to put it back, you could pay 2 and just evolve it and kind of give yourself a little bit of protection. Has auto buttons per turn that when you KO a battle card while attacking or activate blocker, it gets to restand. And then it has another auto that when it's removed by an opponent's skill from the battle area, you're allowed to remove 2 markers from their unison, choose one of their battle cards and 1 card in their hand, and place it into the drop area. So he's pretty punishing. Next up, we have 3 copies of Majin Buu. This is one of the most powerful cards in the deck with the least amount of investment. This is by far the most powerful card in the deck. With this guy right here, you just play him and you get 2 guys. So his auto is when you play him, you get to look at the top 7 cards of your deck and put into play a Dark Broly or a non-black Xeno battle card with cost 9 or less. Period. The leader makes him a 3 cost, so that makes him also very strong. He has barrier, so he works around charismatic. And then you have the other auto, which says while it's in rest mode, if your opponent attacks your leader card, they have to discard 2 cards from their hand. And that's the first time they attack. After that, they don't have to do that anymore. So people have different ways of addressing that. Sometimes if they believe they're going to kill you on that turn, they just ignore it and they just pitch 2 cards. But if they're wrong, then they have to get around to trying to get rid of it again. So one of my favorite targets to grab off of it is 2 copies of this Lord Slug right here, as well as this Lord Slug. So they're both Lord Slug Xenos, similar to these guys right here, except for they work a little different. These guys, 1, aren't unique, but 2, this guy right here, when he comes into play, either your opponent has to choose their unison and send it to the drop area, and if they choose not to, then you get to choose their battle cards, send them to the drop area, and you each draw a card. So it kind of puts them in a weird pickle, and they have to make a choice that they may not want to be making. Out of Control says that if it's a rest mode, your opponent cannot attack your unison or a leader card. So sometimes on turn 3, you get lucky, you play them, you get this, and now your opponent has to get through 2 walls in order to get to all your stuff. He evolves for 2 on top of this guy right here, and he has the auto that when he's removed, you get to get back a Dark Dragon Ball. He is also a triple striker, which is significant, so you could take down Unison with him, assuming that they don't have any way of dealing with him in the meantime. Next, we have our Dark Broly engine. We have 2 of each of the ones that come in the deck. So we have Dark Broly the Shadow Warrior and Dark Broly Unbridled Destruction. Shadow Warrior has a really cool activate main that says that if you have 3 or more energy, you get to play from your deck a Dark Broly with basically a Dark Broly on top of him. But when you do, you can't play Dark Broly's for the rest of the turn. So you kind of have to figure out what you're doing as far as your Dark Broly plays and then make this be the last one. This guy right here says that he can evolve for 2 on top of any Dark Broly, so that's great. He has an auto that says that if there's a Dark Broly underneath him, you get to restand him. And then your opponent, if they're at 3 or more life, has to choose a battle card in their battle area, drop area, and hand and send it to the warp. If they don't, they have to crit a life. So a lot of times, and it's up to 1. It's up to 1. So if they don't send 3 total cards, they crit a life. So a lot of time people just crit the life. And they still have to deal with this 30k monster. We have Dark Broly Spirit Boost Berserker. This guy right here came from the Mad Saiyan deck. He has the ability when he comes into play to be able to -15 a battle card. That's a pretty cool ability. And then he has a Spirit Boost ability while he's in the drop area. and you have 3 or more energy. If that's the case, you get to remove a blue, red, green, and yellow card from the drop to play him from the drop with critical. He also has combo power, which is kind of rare for 6-drop Dark Broly's, and I just think he's a really great card overall. He's red and count as black just like this guy does, so there's also little minor synergies with that as well. We have this dude right here, Dark Broly the Vindicator. He has Overwhelm for 1, Overwhelm 6 for 1, and then he has an auto once per turn for 1 that says that at the end of the battle, after he swings, you get to play the 7-drop on top of him. That's really cool because, again, you pay 1 energy for a 7-drop. Just good card overall. Also, a combos for 5, which is something that I was looking for as far as the Dark Broly's. Then we have 1 each of the original Dark Broly's. We have Uncontrollable Berserker and Demon Rail Ravager. This guy right here warps a battle card when he comes into play. This guy warps a card from your opponent's hand and a battle card from their drop area. So again, both very good effects. Next up, we have the SS4 engine. We have 3 copies of this Gohan. This guy right here is pretty savage. You get to negate the attack with him, play him, and your opponent can only attack with battle cards and unisons up to the number of color and their energy. Now, you do have to discard a card for him, which is fine because it actually works out with kind of the way the deck works, but that's how all those kind of card works. Play 2 copies of Bardock. This is a counterplay for any battle card 20k or less in power. You pay 1, you negate that card, it goes to the drop, and you get to play this dude out. This card is absolutely amazing in this deck. Then a little bit of an interesting choice. We played 2 copies as SS4 Son Goku Prismatic Aegis. This guy right here is a blocker. He also has an ability when he comes into play, but that ability is pointless because it only works with the leader that it's meant for. But I play it for a reason. And the reason is because of this card right here that is the glue for the entire deck, honestly, which is 3 copies of Demon God Toa Restoring the Dark Empire. So this card right here, you can activate once your opponent has 2 or more energy. And you get to choose one of your life, crit it, pay 1, and discard this card from your hand. At that point, you have to make a choice of if you're going to play a Dark Broly, doesn't matter the size of it, or you get to choose 2 battle cards that are Dark Broly or non-black Xeno with costs of 2 or less from your deck and play it with their skills negated for the turn. So on offense, of course, that makes a lot of sense. You could use this to make like 2 more beaters, or you could use it to make a Dark Broly and pressure for 30. But where I really like to do this is when you are going second, you get to use this on turn 2 to make this guy and this guy. And that greatly protects your unison. Because now you got a 16k blocker, a 10k blocker, that's going to go into a 25k double blocker. And it's very hard for a lot of decks to get around that. Then we have a couple of one-ofs. So we have SS4 Bardock fighting against Fate. This could also be Mass Saiyan. Thing is, though, that we have a lot of removal in the deck. So really what we're looking for is, additional pressure in this particular deck. Speaking of which, we play 1 copy of SS4 Son Goku Heartfelt Plea. So this kind of card right here is like, if you see it, great. If you don't, you get rid of it. He has Triple Strike and he has Offering. That's what it is. So Offering says that your opponent either crits a life or you draw 2 cards when they come into play. So your opponent usually lets you draw the cards, especially if they're at a low life total. And he interacts really well with this card right here because you're going to most likely be critting the life from them, swinging on them. They're already going to hit it. And then you get to awaken. And when you awaken, you can sack him off to play this guy right here. He also could sack this guy to be played as well. So even if you don't see like this setup, if you could at least get to him and waken, you could sack him off to make the heartfelt play. Then our ultimate we have is Shenron. Again, the entire game is about protecting this guy and then having an extremely explosive turn 4. This card helps to do it. Next, super combo. We play the Goku. You don't really have a whole lot of options for a really cool super combo, so you kind of have to keep it basic. So Goku it is. Then we have 4 copies of Bean. We're doing this kind of old school, so to speak. We don't have a bunch of blue in the deck. At least we don't have a bunch of blue in the deck, at least until like a side deck options come into play. So we're looking more so to charge a bean, and then each subsequent bean after that is usable. And then lastly, 2 copies of Petrification. Petrification is basically there to stop SS4 base cards as well as to mess up with opponents' attacking math. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is the current version of the build that I've been playing around with, and I like it quite a bit. I'm not saying it's the most competitive build, but I do believe that it gets a lot of the flavor right of the original intent for the Ultimate deck and does have some legs about it. So I'll catch you guys next time, and this is VG Time signing out.